we'll just bless you, Lord, this offering. We lift it up to you and we say, this is the day that you have and are making. May we know you more.
Amen. Amen. And let's say the Lord's Prayer. To set that beautiful tone of the angels and us together. Saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Don't you feel that? That's that love and that unity.
And the marvellous thing is Jesus' name is mentioned. So it doesn't matter what religion you say you are, you can say that prayer. The Jews can say that prayer, and so can the Muslims, and because Jesus' name is mentioned. But the bit on the power and that was his own prayer, because he was tempted with those three things. I'm not tempted with being a king or having power or great glory, but we remember how he was, after he was baptized, and the Holy Spirit came down, and he was out in the hills of the desert, being tempted by evil. But you can use this.
Could I suggest? That's beautiful. I got a lot out of what you said. Could I suggest there is an element too, though, where because the Scriptures reveal us as being of God, a soul from the divine, a spark from the flame. We were also called in the archetypes kings and priests, even when kings and priests. So this is the kingdom that I must be king over. And my temptation, and why I need to keep with that part of that prayer, well, thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, is to remember that I serve the Lord by looking after this kingdom, not by telling you and you how to run your kingdom. There's that sense of...
Well, if it's the Lord's Prayer, it's good enough for me.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Look, just while we're talking about this, I may have said to the people about Saint Issa.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's a guy called Nicholas Notovich, a Russian doctor.
Yes.
He wrote this book about the secret life of Jesus, because he found this manuscript in Lhasa in Tibet about Saint Issa. I'm quite sure it was Jesus. When he gets back to Israel, there's a good page where some bloke, one of Pilate's spies is trying to push into a little meeting, and he pushes this lady, pushes in ahead of her. And there's a good A4 page of what Saint Issa is saying to this about women. And would people be bothered if I put it on the New Jerusalem site? Because it's just one page.
No.
Because it's exactly what I feel about women. See, I think that women are just marvelous.
Wouldn't be him and Adam.
Well,
it would be terribly boring.
More than that.
Among many other things, it would be.
But as I'm getting older, I've got this.
I'm glad I've got a woman.
I've been married for 54 years, and even though because of her 5 osteoporotic fractures in her back and the fact that my body weight's twice hers, the bedroom acrobatics are past that. But I have got a magnificent memory. However, but I really love this woman. I really admire her. This is the love from God. This doesn't come from.
No, it is.
And I think she's this. She's good at making. She's good at the things I'm not. I'm the accelerator. She's the brain. I'm the dreamer. She's the planner. And I see a lot of Renee.
Yes, sir.
You know, I wouldn't want to get into a big argument with her.
She looks like she's got quality. She does. She's the biggest softie. But having said that, I am far better person.
Yeah.
Far better person.
Well, the
I'm
same
happy
here.
to call her my better half.
Yeah, same here.
Next time you're looking for something to read, look up Leon James's Doctrine of the Right. You'll really enjoy it. It's a big read, but look it up.
I was actually going to suggest, have you read Angelic Wisdom Concerning Conjugal Love?
Oh yes, I've read a fair bit of that.
No, that's an amazing book. That's an amazing book, yeah.
Leon
James.
James.
Professor, retired psychology professor.
Doctrine of the Wife.
Yeah.
That'll be, yes.
Yeah, Doctrine of the Wife.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It's readily available online. It's
Good.
quite old now. It's, not in the last decade. It's older than that.
Thank God for that.
It's a big read, but there'll definitely be some there.
Now watch this. These things that we've been talking about, I can't remember what's in here because I sat down and worked on this about a month ago, and then I just dug my head in hard for the seminar. So I got home last night, spell checked it, and clicked print. That's all I could do. But I'm confident that all these things we're talking about are going to come up in here somehow. Let me just start by saying that most days, not every day, we try and do a reading at home with the children. And we were reading, which is up to Matthew 27. Only 28 chapters in that book. And 27, 28 are some of the most heaviest. Because it's the very last moments of the Lord's life before complete glorification. Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I just read it with nice, fresh eyes. And he tries to get Peter, James, and John to come with him deeper into prayer. But there comes that place where even there he has to go a little further on his own. So faith, love, and hope, they're our servants, but even then we have to fully surrender to the Lord. And when he comes back, even Peter's fallen asleep, and he says, Peter, watch and pray lest you fall into temptation. That's interesting for us because we understand that we don't see temptation in the church as all bad. It's just a part of the journey. You can't escape it. Just like death. But angels don't see death. Angels only see the new birth. Letting go of the natural life to go into the eternal life. So temptation here, I'm meditating on this. The Lord is saying you've got to go through temptation tests and changes in your life. That's unavoidable. But there are so many challenges that we do go through, we don't have to go through if we were more connected, if we were watching, if we were praying. And a little bit of that comes in here into this lost sheep today. So let's begin. The lost sheep. Luke 15, 1 to 10. But then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. Lord, may all those states in me that need to hear you draw near. And please shut up those Pharisees in me. But the Pharisees and the scribes murmured, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. Could he really be the Messiah? When the Messiah comes, he will know that we're the righteous. He will honour us and lift us up. Not those filthy sinners, publicans. So he spoke this parable to them, saying, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that which is lost until he find it? And when he had found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. Picture that. A little lamb across the shoulders, carrying it. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbours and he says, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which is lost. I say unto you that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance. And then he goes on to another parable. We'll briefly go over it, but next month we'll really unpack it. Either, what woman having 10 pieces of silver, if she lose one, does not light a candle, sweep the house, seek diligently till she finds it. And when she has found it, she calls her friends and her neighbours together, saying, Rejoice! I have found the piece which I had lost. Likewise I say unto you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner that repents. And when the Lord repeats himself, it's never because he made a mistake. There's another facet, a whole other facet when he repeats himself that he's coming back to. So what's coming up for people before we go into this? Just at the first glance, first reading. Beautiful imagery, isn't it?
Well, it is a fact. The fact of discovery, the fact of recovery. But it is a fact about, isn't it funny about human beings? You haven't seen a friend for a couple of months. And then you see him. Hooray, this is great. Well, we're both the same people. And the thing that's built into us is we get separation anxiety when we're separated from our family. That's why children, newborn babies can cry so loud for so long, and they punish you if you leave them alone. Naturally, that thing's built into us. And but there's other things that the 99 who were taught to be good and were just being good. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Well, there's nothing wrong. It's like when Jesus said to the older brother of the prodigal son, "Look, hang on, mate. Don't get all iffy and butty, but that sort of thing. I'm just pleased that he's home."
Bill, I wonder if the prodigal son isn't more about that, much more about that second son. Now, he could have stopped the parable when the son comes home, but he continued the parable to explore what happened to the one who stayed behind. He really explored the strife and struggle and jealousy and envy that came up in that son.
See, this is touching on something that's very central to what's our attitude towards good Catholics? Well, they think they don't do anything wrong. Yes, it's true.
Good Protestants.
People. Well, they're law-abiding people. But goodness and truth are one together. And if you are happy with the Lord, you will show that happiness, and that you will be kind to other people. So, but this would have to be the commonest thing to worry about. I've been good all my life. I've been a good person. I should get to heaven. But I'm not like that. This Pharisee praying, not like that sinner over there. So this is really central. This whole thing is really central to the Christian church, isn't it?
It is very central. You've got all the characters happening. You've got the sinners, the publicans, you've got the Lord, you've got the Pharisees, and then he just drops this parable, doesn't he? Chris, something coming up for you?
Yeah, something that's coming up. It's really good points you're raising. I had this conversation with a guy during the week, and he came in and said, I've done all this really bad stuff. Just condemnation. Just terrible. It's like
waiting yesterday.
Yeah, just waiting for shock and horror from me. I'm like, yeah, so what? Because I just felt like, and when the son came to the father, he didn't try to stop him. He knew. I think he knew he had to actually taste sin. He knew he knew to actually too much is forgiven, but they will love much.
Yeah.
The one who was forgiven nothing because he knew he wasn't a sinner, the older brother who stayed behind, because he hadn't gone and explored his true nature, which is a sinful part of it, to find his other true nature, which is the heavenly nature.
Very well said, Chris.
So I even said to this guy, I said, and this sounds really bad, but I said, I think you need to go and sin. And he's like, and I said, because the Bible says, cursed is everyone who tries to live according to the law, by good principles. That's the tree of good and evil in the garden, which is still death.
Yeah.
The good side of the tree.
Merit. You're talking about merit here.
Yeah, where it's a tree of life.
Yep.
That's different. Love fulfills the law. And when you do things not based on rules, but just based on love, you end up doing the right thing anyway. He needed to know God's love, but he's still forgiven at his worst point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And after a while, get sick of that and go, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you need to taste it, and then you go, look, I don't like this, it's not serving me.
Yep.
You know, it slows me down. It's like a pebble. We talk about the pebble in the shoe. I just need to get rid of that pebble.
Yep.
You know? And I think sometimes Christians make a big deal out of certain sins or whatever. And God just sees it as a pebble. It's just a pebble that's slowing you down.
I really think what they're searching for too, Chris, is to escape. There's this conundrum in Christianity between trying to earn heaven and it's all a free gift. We all know, if we ask ourselves, there's something in the middle we're missing. I think in the New Church we explore that. Swinburne's written a lot about merit, trying to earn heaven, and how it doesn't work.
No.
A lot of people get there and they're not welcome because and we're going to get into this about the 99, because just like you said, there's a lot of bad things in that guy's life and there's a lot of good.
Yeah.
But it's all about the ownership, the ego.
Yeah.
Owning the bad and owning the good.
Yes.
Instead of not owning the bad, not owning the good, seeking the Lord to remove the bad and letting the Lord fill up more of the good.
That's right. And see, where the trap is for most Christians, when they try to live this Christian life according to rules, which is, the Bible clearly says you're under a curse when you try to do that.
Yes.
You know, it's all about self. It's like looking in, I got this. But it's when we look,
There's only
Christ,
one rule, isn't there?
we're changed as we look and we behold his glory. When it's about him now, he's sufficient. His death did it. It covers it. My sin, I made another mistake. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness. I come boldly into his throne.
Yeah.
You know, then we don't worry about, when we're sitting, whatever. We allow to transform us, putting faith that he's going to do the work in us. You know, it's a major difference.
It is.
Major.
Well, when you look at a Christian conversion experience, there's often something about yourself that a sin that you reject. So there's the difference between the bad and the good.
Mm.
But after you have this conversion, after you get to know that there's a mind that's greater than mine, that seems to know everything, like the forward planning is unbelievable. And you think, there's this, just seems to know what's going to happen and fit it.
On all of us, 6 or 7 billion.
Well, that's true. I have an angel called Ambrose who runs my practice. And there'll be people who will phone in and cancel, and someone will phone in and look for something, and we'll have, oh yes, I've just got an appointment for you. Well, this Ambrose, he's really good at doing stuff like that. But it sort of seems that like is avoiding the sin and accepting the goodness and the truth. But then after this conversion, it's loving the goodness and loving the truth, and there's this joy in the truth.
Yes.
That's the...
You're finding the source, Bill, aren't you? You're learning to live out of divine source. And so that changes you. So you're not even having to try to... Even when you're shunning evil because you don't want that in your life. Rather than, well, I actually do, but I'm trying to get to heaven.
Self-will.
There's still self.
Yeah.
It's still self. This is the death of the old ego and the life and the resurrection of the heavenly ego. Yeah. So
rejoicing in the good is a bit better than just observing the good. Like being a good person is one thing.
Yes.
Rejoicing in that is another, and I think that's the Lord is always talking about that.
Well, it is when he gets the people together. He doesn't just get the lamb home. He then wants to have a celebration.
That's right. Yeah.
Actually, heaven is all about, because this is about getting to heaven and there being a celebration over one state being saved. But is there any other thoughts before we dive in? Darren, just before he's reading ahead, that could be...
No.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because what I'm trying to do here, the process I'm trying to do here is we're exploring it in its externals. The bloke who's a sinner versus the bloke who's now converted. And we're doing all that. Now we've got to go deeper and realise all of this is in me. When I look at it in externals, what troubles me, he left those 99 behind.
But isn't there
That's only my
But
trouble.
another version of that,
There
he
is.
leaves the 99 in the sheepfold,
Thank you. That's
where
very
they're
good.
nice and safe, but leaves them in the wilderness. I'm thinking, hang on,
I know.
leave him in the sheepfold.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking about this because in the other version he leaves them in the sheepfold, but also, and they're protected, but also there's a different destination. Like when he leaves them in the wilderness here, right, he goes after that which is lost. In the other version, he goes up into the mountain. Now they're subtly different parables, and they have slightly different meanings. Beautiful stuff. But when I just read this one, I go, he leaves the 99. But we'll get there. We'll dig in. That's my externals.
Dan, can I quickly just say,
Yeah.
sorry, what I feel that actually means is
Yes.
the 99 are the ones that are like the older brother. They don't think they need any help.
Right.
Because, I mean, you know, in basic psychology, you reward the good. If you give attention to the bad in kids, you're going to get more bad.
Yes.
So God being a very good parent, he's going to be rejoicing over children who are good. Like the true 99 will know they're sinners. You know, they're the
You
one
sure
who
I
goes
haven't sent you these notes? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
You're going to touch on exactly what you're saying here.
So,
There's a
that's
dynamic.
what I'm saying. So
You're right,
99
you're right, yeah.
are the ones Jesus said, I came for the sick. They know their need.
Right.
So these 99 aren't really Christians. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you're close. When you go, I think you're close. When you go to what's going on in me, they're not able to help you at this point in your process. Because, you know, the Lord's always very interested in what is our next step. He's not looking back and condemning all our past. Oh, and chiding us. He's saying, what's the next step, son or daughter? Take that next step. And in this case, the next step is to get that one. It is all about that one. So let's dig in. You're on it, Chris. You're on it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Let's dig in. I don't mind reading this first bit, and then we'll take another turn. Part 1, introduction. Incomplete states. Get rid of that in. There we go. Incomplete states found in one's affections. Every time we hear the word of sacred text, there will be a mixed response inside us. So we've heard it today, and we've had a mixed response. The Pharisee inside us will object or struggle to understand. That's me going, how dare he leave those 99? You know, and while states of innocence will respond with a warmth and a delight at the hope of healing. The advancing soul has committed to this process and discovered that the struggles become less over time. However, there is always work to be done, and sometimes we discover that some part of our life has drifted away from the divine and now is in danger from destructive forces. This parable was spoken to respond to the state within us that believes, quote, I am better than they, because. So in some way, that lost sheep is that state in us saying, I am better than they. And they've kind of lost that connection to the source, recognizing where it's coming. It's me, I am better. It seeks to return our attention, the parable seeks to return our attention to the true work of regeneration. It reminds us that the work of the divine is not to judge or condemn, but to rescue states of innocence within us. These lamb-like states were planted in us from birth and contain deep affections for the divine, trust in his leadership, and a willingness to be led by the Lord, not selfishness or ego. We need to be sensitive to the Lord's leading when he asks us to address those areas inside us which are being neglected or are going astray. The ego prefers to focus in on the successful states, the 99, and even take credit for their achievements. Instead, the divine seeks to focus on that which is broken for the work of restoration and healing. Thoughts? Ideas? Questions?
Well, I'm an alcoholic, even though I don't attend AA meetings. I'd like to, but I do the AA 12 steps every day. But this 99, they say, oh, we'll be right back. You go up and look after this poor little fella. They're like people say, look, Doc, I've got it all worked out. I've got some interesting stories of people who say things. I've got it all worked out. Just don't drink like it's. I don't need to go to AA with all those alcoholic lost souls over there.
Right.
Talking about how needy. Well, people that they've got it all straightened out, they're fine. They'll never get off the roll. And that you get, so you'll often get people who haven't had a drink for 25 years and they say, look, I'm a beaten alcoholic, I'm a broken man, I'm a hopeless case. I can't stop drinking. I just have decided that I wasn't going to get into the drive this afternoon, just today. But that's what I see. He leaves them in the wilderness because they'll say, it's okay, mate. We'll be right. We're all okay. They haven't got a problem. Just go after that problem land that doesn't etc. So I often sort of get worried about the people who've got it all straight out, like these survivors. You're bipolar, you're this, you're that, you're that. You take these tablets. Like they've got everything straightened out.
Bill, is there a little bit of lack of authenticity too when people, I don't need to go like all those alcoholics to those meetings. I just figured it out. I don't need to drink. Is there a lack of authenticity?
Of course,
there too? It's like they don't want to admit to other people that they've got the same struggles. Like it's kind of like.
Well, just very quickly, because I know we're constrained. This girl, she was 20 or something anyway. She was addicted to something, and anyway, in order to try, I use, and I often do this. I will display my point of vulnerability. If you got two wolves fighting each other for supremacy, when one wolf thinks he's beaten, he just shows his jugular vein to the other wolf, like this. It shows his vulnerability, and that switches the thing up. So I might just reveal, for no particular reason, that I'm an alcoholic to this person and see what they do with it. Right. One girl whose father was a real nuisance. He'd become, he got the God bug, and he'd gone to this, and he was a new man, and etc. And he's cured alcohol, praise the Lord. And the next time I saw her, he arrived. This is the father who was an absolute nuisance, with this thing from the Bible: no drunkard shall ever. And he accused me of this. No drunkard shall ever get into the kingdom of heaven. Wow. That was that's what's his name? The rugby player.
Folau.
Yeah, it was Israel Folau sort of stuff. That and of course this guy was a real hopeless case, but he decided that I've seen the light. That no drunkard shall get into the kingdom of heaven. Now, I hadn't had a drink for a long, long time at the time that I said that. So I probably don't do that so much these days because making yourself a target and seeing what they do with it.
I like triggering people like that too. See the religious people come out of there under their rocks. I don't know. I love doing it. I don't know why.
Well, I know a Lutheran pastor. He likes going into public bars. I don't think he drinks, but he goes into public bars and he strikes up conversations with drinkers, and he's. I couldn't do that, but. I don't know how he does it, but next thing he's got this good conversation going.
Yes. It's when that, and I've had that happen once with me, and I saw a friend and he pulled me into the pub. I hadn't seen him in a year. And we're chatting. You should have seen there was a guy on the other side leaning over to try and hear everything about the conversation. Just wanted to, where have you been? What's happened? Tell me about it. You found God? That's great. He's leaning in trying to, what's to hear? Funny. Let's talk through a couple of these. So we don't get too far behind. Why do you want to read the first one?
Okay. For then drew near unto him all, deep longing within that seek to be healed and made whole.
Drawing inside us, yes.
Yeah.
Keep going, Pharisee.
the Pharisee and the scribes murmured.
Murmur.
I just said murmur. Murmured.
That's a very soft wink.
Yeah. Unregenerate states that justify selfishness and criticize godly sacrifice.
Godly sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Someone said to me yesterday, the book you've written there sounds very New Age, Dave. New Age is not good. And I tried to help them understand that I've written the book for people that aren't believers, that maybe have an offence to believers, and not put lots of scriptures in there and wrote it in a way that's appealing to them. And they were struggling with that. And this is the thing, the Lord didn't come for the well. He didn't come for the saved. He came for those who are not saved. And this is the challenge, isn't it? They're looking at the sacrifice that Jesus is making to eat with sinners, to live among those that really need him, to be the Lutheran hanging out in the pub. And they're looking at it and going, that's not right. And I mean, that's selfishness, not wanting to acknowledge that maybe I won't give my life up to do that. I think that's beautiful what that man does. I wish I could do it, but it's not me.
Oh, well.
Everyone has their call.
You know, there's, you've seen that I know a lot of people. And they say, oh, look, I think that's a bit New Age.
They say that to you?
That's coming from the devil. Now, but I've noticed when I meet authentic, fair income Christians who love the Lord,
Yes.
you don't get into arguments about it. But, oh, no, watch out. Well, these are people who are motivated by fear.
Yeah, well
and
said.
people
well
who
said.
know the Lord aren't motivated by fear.
Wow, well said.
So,
wow.
and you don't. If somebody warns you about, look, that's definitely from the devil. You don't. You know too much about Hinduism. You know you were reading something about Buddhism. Oh, that's definitely coming from the devil. You've got to get away from all that sort of stuff. You don't get that from the Christian.
No, that's beautiful.
Because and Paul said, have a look at all things and examine all things and hold on to what's good.
It's interesting too that we're doing adventures in the apocalypse, and so the archetype here we get in that book is the lamb, but it speaks like a dragon. Isn't it? They like to put on the pretense of godliness, but deep down they're quite selfish and they've got their own agenda, and they'll eat the fellow lamb if they're given half a chance. So they're not really a lamb, are they?
No.
So there's this archetype, isn't it? And so it's nice what you're saying. Those that really know the Lord are lambs, aren't they? They're not going to attack you on every single thing you say. Yeah. Okay, read the next one, Bill, for us. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Saying.
Oh, yeah, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. Sensual thoughts concerning that which is transcendent and holy.
Sensual thoughts concerning that which is transcendent. Ever wondered why God hid his deeper truths in the literal sense of the word? Well, that's the reason. Our sensual thinking will always disregard it, discredit it, use the Lord's golden vessels of his temple to drink out of it our celebration party, so to speak, like it happened when the writing was on the wall. If you remember the story. They were drinking out of God's. Yeah, that idea. Okay, keep going there.
Yeah, what man of you, having 100 sheep, has matured spiritual states capable of recognizing everything necessary to walk the spiritual path at advanced level? Sheep are goods of innocence. Spiritual maturity equips the advancing soul with the ability to identify when things are well or when things are going astray. He or she can identify what elements are missing in one's spiritual practice. How? The answer is peace or the lack thereof. The true state of the regenerative soul is peace. And when that peace is interrupted by negative states, the advancing soul is quick to self-examine and seek for guidance.
What does an unregenerate person do when their peace is interrupted?
Well, they could blame somebody.
Well, they'll blame somebody else, won't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, you've wrecked my peace. My peace is mine.
It's true, isn't it? We do that,
Sort
don't
of
we?
thing.
We like
Oh,
to
yeah. You knew that I was a selfish butt. No, I know what it is. I'll sing it for you. How could you believe me when I told you that I love you when you know I've been a liar all my life?
Another one.
That's another one. That, oh look, these are people that I see a lot of.
Yes.
You know, they wrecked my peace. It was my mother. My mother,
Yes.
and you know, she did all sorts of good things, but I'll never forgive her for it. You know, I don't know whether it's the age of communication where everyone's walking around the street doing this or doing this. It's quite amazing when you just look at all these people doing this with the. But I don't know how many people that I've got on my books that my sister's not talking to me. My mother's not talking to me. There's this sort of cutting off communication. Now, I ask a few questions. Do they owe you money? That's the biggest one. Do they owe you money? But sometimes a young person has got this thing, with my mother, didn't love me enough.
Oh. And these can be true things.
Oh, yeah, they're true. All right.
But you've got to work through them.
But you can't hold on to them forever and a day and use that to excuse all sorts of behaviour.
No, that's like the one who buried the talent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of getting on and doing something, they want to, you know,
I knew
it was my
you-
mother's fault she didn't love me.
Yeah, I
Just
knew
bury
you were a
this.
bad man. I knew you'd kick me up the behind, so I made sure I didn't lose it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's operating out of the negative, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so just think, before we move on, just think. Now, those 99 states of peace inside you, those incredible, blissful states of peace inside you, where are they when one state inside you's gone astray and you've lost your peace? They're still there. But you leave that to go and find what the problem is. Isn't it?
Right. Good thinking.
There we go. We're getting there. We're getting that in a sense now. We leave those states because they're no good to us, those blissful 99, when the one state that's robbing us of our peace right now needs attention. How often do we ignore the tap on the shoulder? The soul warrior knows the watchman state, the state of peace, and they're aware when something's going wrong in their life. And so they listen carefully. And if you're quick to respond to that, if you're watching and praying, Peter, you won't fall into temptation. The watchman state. You're watching, oh, there goes my peace. What was that? Little lamb going off astray here. I'm going to work on it. So let's keep going. Russell, would you read us the next bit? If he loses. So it's a mature person now who's got control of himself, understands their state, suddenly loses the state of peace. Keep going there.
If you lose one of them, the Lord, through revelation, highlighting an area in need of spiritual attention.
Yeah, you want to keep going, Russell?
Leave the 90 and 9 in the wilderness. Divine energy and spiritual influx apparently moving away, leaving the advancing soul both protected and in a searching state from bereavement and incompletion. Herein lies an apparent paradox. The Lord seeks only to bless the soul, and yet spiritual process causes pain and struggle. In reality, spiritual practice will only unveil the self-existent brokenness that already lays below the surface. The 99 states that once gave us joy and delight can no longer make us happy until wholeness is achieved. Thus, those states are left behind in pursuit of healing and restoration.
And there's Chris's point. The 99, if we go in a little bit more external again, the 99 are suddenly discovering they're not so great. That maybe, you said it so well, Chris, you said, those who are forgiven much love much. Well, if we just take the standard British Christian message, we're all forgiven much. Just that some of us know it and are able to reciprocate with love to the divine, and others don't. Or let's put it in a more internal sense. Some parts of me know how much I need God and respond, and other parts of me are still quite stubborn, telling God to mind his own business. I got this under control, Lord. And that's, these are going on inside us. Darren, you haven't said much. What you thinking there?
I think the way I'm sort of seeing part of this is like, in many ways, it's like a reflection of addiction itself.
Ooh, right.
So those states which appear like innocence, but are actually on that external level, they're seeking sensual merit, or they're seeking merit, seeking sensual reward, they're seeking...
To get to heaven in their own way.
well, their perception of heaven is different anyway.
Right, that's a better way of putting it.
So self-reward, self-gratification, that's all the merit and the reward that they're seeing. And when we're in that state, we can't really be taken out of it until we move from that state, which is like the one sheep that's been lost. Now, why it's a reflection of that addiction to me is when we are lost and found, then we are now seeking the Lord's love, but we're seeking it from a deeper place where the more we receive, the more we give out. So we're getting more and more as we're giving more and more.
Is that deeper state that you're talking about, is that the Lord carrying?
Absolutely, yeah. So as because of that, you can see a reflection of that addiction, because the more we get, the more we want. But in this case, we're giving it back to the Lord and we're giving it to our neighbours.
Wow.
Whereas when we're in that more external level, the more we want, the more we get, the more we want. But we can never be truly satisfied.
No.
Because
The
that's
exact opposite.
that's a limited well from which we draw. It's a finite well. Whereas when we're drawing from the Lord, it's an infinite well, and it can never be filled.
And each one of these parables ends in a what? In a party.
Yeah, yeah.
Each one of these parables ends up in a party. Wow. Vivian, what do you think? What's coming up for you? It's tough stuff to get, isn't it?
It is, because there's so much you can discuss about holiness. But I think sometimes we too focus on because I was in like last 2-3 years, I feel like I might start coming out of wilderness, because you went through, and you always think I have a God behind my back whenever I need it. But when you are in the really deep temptation, you realize that's not it. It's like you need to draw more and more, like stuff like this. You got to like really practice it every day. It's not like it's like trying to reject it, even with addiction or things like that. You need to practice rejecting that. It's not just say, I'm already get rid of that or something, I'm going to be fine. I don't think it's like that. You need to practice.
Yes.
It's like practice anything. Like I had to practice rejecting fear. Try not to engage. We all have something within ourselves.
Yes.
It's like, I wouldn't say it's weakness, something we really have to work on it. And it's like, I might have a recipe really good, but this is one I really have to work on it.
Yes, I like what you're saying there. This is good.
I like it.
Yeah, because it's like, I have certain things, and with certain things you think, oh, I'm really fine with that. But then it's this particular one, why I can't just have it all. So, instead of 99, it's that I want 100. But then it's that particular thing, I just have to keep it. I don't know.
We've all got our wandering sheep.
Yes.
We've all got our wandering sheep.
I don't know if you can. I think if you can have it all, then you will be very blessed. I'm trying to working on something. It's like I have a bigger thing with the fear.
Yes.
And something happened, I would draw. I don't know, it's a fear or it's not good enough. I think it's always these two. And then I have to try to say something happened. The first thing that I go into, not law, is that fear thing. So I have to not engage to say, no, I can.
And and it's so incredible how you can be 4 or 5 miles down the road and the trees and the rocks are now in the way, and then suddenly you go, oh, where's the 99? I've gotten into fear again.
Yeah.
I've just gone into fear again. And this is why you know, for me, soul worry is a practice.
It
It's
is.
a practice. It's continually watching and observing. And then when things go astray, we're quick to. It's a good mark, you know, like when you're offended. Great peace have they that love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. You get offended. You say, well, okay, that person offended me. Now, how long did that take for me to even catch myself? Did I go a day, an hour, a day, a week? Was I tearing them up in my inner landscape for a week? The wolves were let loose. Oh, tearing them to pieces. And I finally caught myself offended and tearing that person to pieces. So it's a good gauge. It's not, there's no judgment or condemnation, but it's a good gauge to say, how long did it take me to realise that sheep was lost and go after it?
Well, why I agree with Vivian is that that I used to see, I don't see too many of it now, but on the bumper sticker, I'm already saved. Like, you know, I can't do any wrong. Because I'm already saved. I've got Jesus, you know, I'm born again. I'm already saved. And I'm thinking, well, you know, that was lucky that that you're now you're living on extended credit that's being paid off for you. You know, you're that's all ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, like I've got it all together.
Yeah.
Because nobody's got it all together. You know, alcoholics, they know that they can. They have lived an hour at a time, and so do.
They're the
so
most
do
watchful,
Christians.
aren't they? They're the most
Yeah,
watchful.
so do Christians. But we have this gift of free will that if we get into the habit of doing our own thing, and if we tell lies about it, we're in strife, big strife.
Start lying to yourself.
Yes, we start, and so we have to watch ourselves. We got to work on ourselves, all the time. But it's fun.
Well, this spiritual stuff is truly exciting as you get into
it's
it.
fun.
Yeah.
So I
And this
agree
is
with you. You know,
build
I think that's what.
All through the Bible where it talks about watchmen and building in the tower, and because we're here when we're doing the tower, getting in the tower, all this stuff is really just our inner world that we're learning to master with the Lord's care. Russell, what's come up for you?
What comes to mind is sometimes because you enjoy something so much, you don't realise that it's not actually good for you.
Wow.
And so over time, I suppose, you start to, you go through lots of experiences, and it's like you need to go through the experience of not being good, I suppose, to really understand that you shouldn't be doing that, and not just being sort of told or getting advice from someone you're actually going through it, to know it.
And what comes to my mind is a lot of the parables where a seed is introduced and then it grows into a tree and then there's some kind of a fruit. You need the whole experience, don't you, Russell? Sometimes like Chris says, just come sin, man. Come back to me when you
and he actually said, because I gave him, I said, and mind you, this is what I think your answer is when you've had enough of it. This is what I think you need to put in place. But he said, yeah, I'm not yet ready to. I think I still need to sin some more. But he was being honest, because the thing when you're trying to live to the law, Paul said it's like wet paint. Don't touch it; springs up, and it's more attractive to you.
He hasn't hit his prodigal moment yet, has he? You cannot help anyone, nor yourself, until you've hit that moment where you really. It's like the pigs are eating better than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. So let's quickly read a bit more, and I want to see how Brian's doing. We'll read a bit more. So, Ian, do you want to just jump through a couple of those paragraphs, and we've got a couple of minutes to finish? All right, Chris, yeah,
Chapter was it?
Go after.
Oh yeah, go after that which is lost until you find it, searching, questing, and in an awakening process concerning one's affections. On the surface, our choices may look good and present as wholesome. However, when examined in the light of heaven, we may discover that our motives are not pure but compromised with selfish ambitions. While these ambitions are allowed to remain, the advancing soul will continue to fluctuate between peace, joy, and aggression, depression. Even the smallest stone inside the most comfortable shoe will cause pain and disrupt the true intention function of the footwear.
I did send these notes to you. No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay. He lay it on his shoulders, rejoicing. The wandering heart now restored through states of surrender and dependence upon the Lord. The advancing soul has many inner quests leading to beautiful mountains, flowing rivers, great cities, and at times wilderness, deserts, and barren lands. All the while, he and she are learning invaluable lessons of trust, faith, charity, and surrender. When the heart begins to wander, the heavenly remnants placed deep inside by the Lord are in danger of corruption and destruction. It is the Lord's wonderful mercy and love alone that rescues that which is strayed and is now lost. However, we must play our part in these questing moments through the act of surrendering our will and embracing the Lord's will. At such moments of surrender, that battle is turned in the favour of good. The fight is won, and the advancing soul tastes peace and rest as the divine carries one back to states of homeliness and security. And in the wilderness, where thou hast seen how that the Lord thy God bare thee, as a man doth bear his son, in all the way that he went until he came into this place. And when he come home, he called together his friends and neighbours, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I found my sheep which was lost. New regenerative states that unite and bring spiritual delight to the advancing soul. Joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth. The advancing soul now able to access deeper states of heavenly peace and rest and completeness. More than over 99 just persons which need no repentance. Well-established regenerative states coming from remnants that do not need transformation, deliverance, or rescue.
So just go back for a moment to the sheep suddenly seeing the shepherd. It's bleating. It's panicking. It knows it's a danger. And suddenly it sees the shepherd. That's the moment of joy in our victory. When we have joy in come through this battle. And then the shepherd picks the sheep up, and it's struggling and wrestling a little bit, and he puts it on his shoulders. Even when we come through our battle, we're surrendering, we're fighting a little bit, but surrendering, and fighting a little bit, but ultimately the joy of knowing we're saved again takes over. Doesn't it? That's this process. So, and then of course it ends up in a reuniting, runs off and gets in with the other sheep, and there's celebration, and there's lots of happiness. And that's us again, our 99 states can again take surface because they're able to rejoice because we've come back into a state of equilibrium and peace in the Lord. Juan, what do you think? What's coming up for you?
Recently, I just finished translating the paper, the descent of the Holy See.
Beautiful.
And currently, I'm reading another paper on translating, which is the purpose and the value of life in the world. I'm asking my question. As a new church member or the believer in the new church, what is the core attitude or behavior we should do? Why do I ask this question? Is because currently there is a apparent conflict or the argument between some people in China in our study group.
Oh, okay, yes.
I'm so enthusiastic in reading Swedenborg's writing, and in other words, the Swedenborg's writing is so attractive to me. It's because this writing gives me such a strong light, inside light. I found the way or the solution to overcome the fundamentalist or the traditional Christians' attitude.
Yes.
To look down on all the other religions, other people. I'm the number one.
Yeah.
My doctrine is the number one.
That's true, isn't it?
However, this argument is focused on one thing. Remember I said in the video to you asking our attitude towards the idol worship.
Idol worshippers.
Idol worship.
Yeah. What's the right attitude towards idol worshippers? Yeah.
Because one side of this argument is that we should dislike all
Idol worshippers.
not support or not tolerate the attitude to think myself as number one, to look down on all the other religions. But on the other side of this argument, they are still strongly criticize all the other religions.
Just a thought, Warren. Jesus said, "You Pharisees, you hypocrites, you go to such a length to comb out one gnat." Think of that like your idol worship. People who externally worship idols. Comb out one little flea. Then you swallow a whole camel full of fleas. Now, this is my attitude about idol worship. Okay, maybe it's not right. But then all these Christians and anyone else that worship their car and their money or their, whatever it is, have many more. They've got camels and camels of idols. Well, one person over here who might actually worship an idol, and their life's a lot simpler. There's a lot less rubbish in their life. So from God's perspective, let's not point fingers. Let's just support each other where we're at to come to truth. And if someone's worshipping an idol, let's try and help them see who the living God is.
Some people
it's a challenge, isn't it?
Because this is a very significant thing.
It's very significant.
One is that we believe Swedenborg's writing really give us the true light, so that we should behave in such a way to benefit all the other people, society, country, world. However, in our small group of people, in China, there are only small group of people who are reading Swedenborg's writing
at the moment.
This is only the beginning, but this division has started.
Can I just jump in to say something?
Yes.
Ina and I, we did a Bible study on this Friday, and we were doing John chapter 8, and it's a part there. I really love about this because we had this discussion about, and I asked Yin, because of my background, my family was a Buddhist background. So I'm from the Buddhist coming into Christianity. And I said to Yin, remember we had this discussion, I said, why it's only happen with Jesus Christ, and why we not just have one religion, just God sent Jesus Christ. Jesus is God, God is Jesus. Why we not just have that, and that's it? For example, you gave it to me, you talk about, like using Jacqueline and Felicity. They are two different people. Yeah. So not everybody was suitable for Christianity. Some people might need Buddhist teaching. Some might need to have a Muslim teaching. Some people might different things. But should be all under the same umbrella. So we have a one God. This God create all these, but have a different branch. So people in different region and different continent can receive the same thing. It's all about, if you think about, it's a loving neighbor, loving your God.
That's what it is.
So you can follow your belief, your principle. If you are Buddhist, love your Buddhist, loving your people, doing the same thing for other people. If you are Christian, love God, love Jesus Christ, and love your neighbors. I think this is what's about. It's not about who is better than. You cannot put on this in the context to say, my God is better than your God. It's impossible. This is why it's a crisis. People fighting each other.
Yes.
Because you can loving your God, just loving your neighbor. Have you do something good to your neighbors? So we always put on me before other people. So it's always have that. That's my input because we will talk about this on Friday.
It's almost like one. It's almost like you have to say, as the leader, you have to say, "Let's agree to disagree."
Yeah, exactly.
We can have unity on that. Let's have unity on that.
Ian wants to say something.
Yes, sorry.
Add to that, when Jesus was talking to the Pharisees and scribes, they argued with him. It's a big argument. And they said, "Oh, but we've got Abraham for our father." And he said, "Well, that's okay. You have him." And he does not turn around and say, "Oh, no, that's wrong. You should be following me." He said, "That's fine. You have him. That's fine." I'll never forget that now.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
That he does not set out to tell them that they're wrong.
No.
He says, "That's fine. That's fine. I'll leave it
Go
with
for
you."
it. Yeah.
That was great.
And Jesus said, didn't he? Said, "You know my disciples by their doctrine, by their love." Because that's the fruit. You can't produce the fruit of the Spirit without God, which is love.
Yeah. And it's like the doctrine is like I've got a carving knife and I've carved this beautiful tree and painted it and stuck it in the corner and I'm still waiting for fruit.
Yeah. I think, and this is a good point,
No life in
because
it.
what you're struggling with, I think doctrine is great, but it's only meant to point to the source. It's just a sign,
Charity's the only
you know? Like even the disciples, the apostles, they were making it up as they were going along and they just wrote it down. Oh, we've got this trouble with these people, let's appoint 7 people to serve them. You know, and then we make big deals out of this doctrine, just solving problems as they're moving along with the Holy Spirit's guidance. That's all.
And let's just tie this up by saying,
Just before you...
Darren, go, jump.
To speak of one, very helpful thing in these situations, I find, is try to highlight the commonality, not the differences. Okay? So, yes, someone might be worshipping an idol, but what does that idol represent to them? Okay? Because, like Vivian said, her family is a Buddhist family. And when I first met Vivian, she was a Buddhist as well. Now, at no point did I ever try to convert her to Christianity. That was a choice that she made of her own free will. Because to me, she was as entitled to her cultural and
Spiritual connection. Yes.
as I am to mine.
Yes.
But at one point I even bought Vivian, which we still have, a statue of Guan Yin, which is in Buddhist things like the goddess of love and compassion. But when I look at that, I look at all those qualities that are reflected in there that come from the Lord Jesus Christ. If I'm in Taiwan and I'm with a family and they visit a temple, then I'll bow my head to the different deities they have in there. But each one of them, I'll try and find an aspect of the Lord Jesus Christ that I can see reflected in the story behind that deity.
Powerful.
You can say the same thing about Hinduism. All their gods reflect an aspect of divinity.
Yes.
And so when people talk to me about how can people worship idols, I say, what do they see in those idols? What are they representing behind those idols? That is what they are worshipping. They're not worshipping a piece of stone. Because when the Lord in the Bible talks about people worshipping pieces of stone or pieces of wood, they're talking about hard facts, they're talking about distortions, they're talking about things that have been isolated from the connection, which is the Lord. That's when they're talking about the materials that those idols are made of, or at least that's the way I see it anyway. When someone's looking at the qualities behind those idols, then they are looking at aspects of the Lord. And that brings commonality rather than division. And that is the real way to go forward.
Good stuff, Darren. Good stuff.
Kuan Yin and the Virgin Mary, the attributes of both. Kuan Yin was the sort of feminine aspect of the book. And if you enumerate what are the aspects of Kuan Yin, it's what the Catholics, how the Catholics regard the Virgin Mary. And look, there was a fellow here yesterday who was in the Air Force in Malaya, and he and this other bloke were having a race on the road, racing their cars. And
I was aware of that. I want us to have a chance to
he just come over. This bloke has come over, and there were all these people on the road. And the first fellow just turned off. But then he comes over the hill next, and there's all these people there, and he was trying to stop to hit them, but they were hungry ghosts.
Yeah, right.
They were. He just decided he'd just drive through them.
And he did.
And he did.
And they were
actually apparitions.
Yeah.
So
Incredible.
I've actually found I've read very widely. I don't find any reason to reject anything.
No.
And I think that the message for the new church is God is with us now, and it's appropriate to be loving towards everybody.
Yeah. And this is. So I want to close it up. So this is me being a little cheeky, okay, and saying, I'm being a little cheeky here and saying, your group is like a marriage, and in a marriage, coming back to the man and woman thing, the feminine and the masculine, and we need them both. And so don't let it trouble you that there are these people being fundamental. Just say, look, let's let that go now. Let's focus on our commonalities, as Darren said, and move forward. And that's what you have to do in marriages sometimes, isn't it, guys? And so let's gather together and pray.
I knew you were talking about your marriage was going to come in handy somewhere, Bill. Dear Lord, we are truly grateful for you, for your message, and for your people, particularly those who are here, Lord, that I have had the chance, that each one of us has had the chance to come together and spend time together and shine different facets of your love and your goodness and your beautiful mercy. And we ask that this morning all that we've said and done will stay with us through the day and the weeks, and it will help us and know you more and love you more and love each other more. In the name of Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Hopefully the two microphones have been worked well. One, we'll see what it sounds like. You may have found a way
I haven't had a chance to go and
to get the sound right.
Yeah.
It was like this as I listened to you last night.